good evening, and welcome to another episode of Ready for Relationship Live. I'm going to wait for a few people to log in. Wait for a few to come in the room. I'm going to check to make sure that my settings are good. Good evening, come in, say hi, give a wave, a heart, something to that effect so I know that you can hear and see me. Okay. Good evening. Let me know that you're in the room. Okay, I see Kelly. Good evening, Kelly. Good evening, Charlene. How you doing? Okay. Okay, I see some thumbs up. So I take it you guys can hear me. So welcome again to another episode of Ready for Relationship Live. Let me know if you can hear me. Everything doesn't go well until you go live. That's the fallbacks of going live sometimes. You never know. So just let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me, before I even get started. Hey Shahid, how you doing this evening? Okay, can you guys hear me and see me well? Shannon, how you doing? Okay, I can hear you. Okay, thank you, Kelly. I appreciate it. So welcome to another episode of Ready for Relationship Live. I'm your host, AB Bracewell. And as you know, if you've been watching these broadcasts, if you've been watching these shows, you know that we speak about things concerning relationships, but not only relationships, but the preparation for relationship, ready for relationship. So, so many times when we're talking about relationships, we focus on a lot of the exterior things that we need. We try to get the perfect job, or we try to find that dream house. We make sure that our credit is at an 800 or better. We try to get that career that we're after, and then we say, yes, I'm ready for a relationship, or yes, I'm ready for a marriage. And yes, all those things are important. All those things are great to have, but so many times we ignore the internal things that we need to sometimes fix, or sometimes need to pay attention to, that will really make us properly prepared to be in a happy and healthy relationship. And that's what this show is all about. That's the type of topics that we speak about. If you've seen other broadcasts, we've talked about everything from sacrifice to communication to self-esteem. We spoke about so many internal things, overcoming trauma, dealing with abandonment issues, those real hard things that we need to pay attention to, and those things that really affect us when we enter into relationships. So this show, this broadcast, was originated from the book that I wrote, which was called Ready for Relationship. Um, and in that book, I pull out topics about relationships, about healing, about just becoming a better person, so we can be that better person for our mate. And I decided, why just keep that in a book? Why not invite some special guests, that have some experience, that have some knowledge and some wisdom and an opinion on some of the topics. Usually I start the show off by reading a section from the book. But that's not what I'm going to do today. What I'm going to do today, I'm going to do a special promotion, a special, I should say, giveaway for both of my books, for the Ready for Relationship book and for the From Relational Hurt to Spiritual Healing book. So all I ask is for, maybe the first 5 people that will inbox me and type ready for relationship. The first 5 people that inbox me and type ready for relationship, I promise I will send you a free copy of the book of your choice. So I'm good. This promotion is gonna go on throughout the show. I'm gonna announce it again. But if you're on early, the first 5 people that inbox me will get a free copy of one of my books. So let's hop into the show. Um, I have two very, very, very special guests, two amazing women, two wise women, two women that have a lot of insight on the topic that we're going to be talking tonight. Tonight, we're going to be talking about knowing your worth, the importance of knowing your worth before you enter into a relationship. Um, the first person I'm going to introduce is Coach. I like to call her Coach T, Coach Tamaka. She is a certified life coach. I've had her on other broadcasts before, and this young lady just comes with so much positivity. She just has this very positive aura about her. When she speaks, you feel that you can tell that she's coming from a real sincere place. And the next lady that I'll introduce, her name is Kenya Young. Kenya actually was my very first guest on a Ready for Relationship broadcast. At that time, we had some technical difficulties, so it didn't go exactly how we wanted it to go. But I tell you this, I heard her story one day on a Facebook Live, and her story was so riveting. It was her story about learning her own self worth. It was so grabbing and so riveting that I had to have her as my first guest. So I'm so blessed and honored that I was able to reach out to her and have her back again. And maybe she'll let us in and share some of that story that I'd heard that day. So, without further ado, please, please, please welcome Miss Coach Tamaka and Kenya Young. Give them both a thumbs up or some hugs. Let me see if I can add them. There they go. Okay. I would say good evening, ladies, but both of you guys are in sunny Las Vegas right now. So, it's raining where I am, but good afternoon to y'all. I see the sun is shining, you're glowing, and I hear I got artificial light trying to make me shine. But good evening. Thank you for being a part of the show.
Absolutely. Thank you
Thank
for
you for
having us.
having us.
Oh
Yes,
no,
thank
it's
you for
my
having us.
pleasure. It's my pleasure. So please,
I do
um,
apologize for the noise because I'm in my car. So everybody forgive me for that. Forgive me.
oh, you're fine. Don't worry about it. You're absolutely fine. So please, I know I didn't do your introduction any justice. Please introduce yourselves to the people before we get started.
Go ahead, Coach T.
Well, my name's Tamaka, and I'm a certified life coach as well as a spiritual coach. And I go by T the Encourager, which is like what AB was saying. I just operate in a gift of encouragement, and that is just what I do. I have a lot. I'm working on a book right now about relationships. I have my own business called Complete Woman, which I try to encourage my clients as well as all women as well as men to heal from whatever traumas, childhood, relationship traumas that may have caused them to not operate and show up in life as their best and full selves. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. Thanks for having me tonight. Appreciate it, AB, and I'm looking forward to these topics here. They look really juicy. Ready to dive in.
Thanks for being a part of the show. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Kenya, did Kenya freeze? It looks like she might have frozen.
I think
Um,
so.
yeah, maybe if she maybe she'll log in and log back on. Look like she froze for a second. Oh, oh, look like I lost both of my guests for a quick second. I'm not sure. Let me see. But please continue to come in. As you know, tonight's topic is about knowing yourself. knowing your self-worth, the importance of knowing your self-worth before we enter relationships. Let me see if I can get Coach T back. Okay. Okay, well, maybe we'll get Kenya back. It looks like she froze for a second. But we can continue on with the show until she pops back up. Can you hear me, Coach T?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So as you know, our conversation tonight is about knowing your self-worth, the importance of knowing your worth, knowing who you are before you enter into a relationship. I mean, so many times I like to say that we people get into relationships and they might say that they lost themselves in a relationship, but I often believe that people get into relationships not really knowing their true worth, and that's why it's so easy for them to get lost in another person's personality or another person's life, another perfect person's trauma or drama. Because when you don't know what your worth is and you get into relationships, you can get tossed, to and fro by another person's situation. So, what's your thoughts on knowing your self-worth, and why would you say that so many people have a hard time knowing what their worth is?
So I feel as though knowing your self worth is knowing the value of what you are as an individual, as a person, as a man or as a woman. I speak mostly to the majority of women, so I find myself a lot of times addressing it from a female's perspective. However, I want to try to keep this topic fair because I've seen a lot of men do the same thing, not know their self worth. And then from them not knowing their self worth and understanding what self worth is, it's like the difference between an item you would purchase at the Dollar Tree and an item you would purchase at Gucci. What makes those items different? They could both be, say, a squeezy ball for stress, like a little stress ball. But then if you put a Gucci sign on one, you can now charge $89 and the other's $1. So what made those two so different? It's the value of the store and the franchise in which they come from. So you have to, first of all, in my opinion, have a base of where you come from, what you are, who you are. If you have standards and values, maybe from your parents, maybe from your religion or your belief system, somewhere you have to have a root base of what you find your worth, because it all boils down to what self-worth, what you value yourself as. Then the reason I feel as though so many people maybe struggle with that is because they never take the time to figure out what they're worth, what their value is to them. If they grew up in an area or in a neighborhood, or if they came from a home where that wasn't something that was prioritized, or maybe they were in a dysfunctional situation in childhood and they weren't encouraged and motivated and promoted to have a high value system, then now they grow up with that self identity and their imagery in their mind that they have a low value. And that, in my
Mm,
opinion, transfers over into not just relationships, but everything. The way that they intercommunicate with the world in general.
yeah.
So,
No,
yeah.
no, I definitely agree, and you actually started to answer some of the next questions I had about that. About you know, we know that people suffer with knowing their own self-worth, and people question their own self-worth at times. But why does that happen? Why would you say it happens? It's just I know it could be a variety of reasons, but with the people that you work with, the ladies that you mentor, that you consult with, like, what do you see that's so common as far as why they question their own self-worth?
Well, I would say it would be the same reason why I used to question mine. I didn't understand the value that I had within myself. I didn't understand the importance and the depth of my own voice and my own story. I um, I hid a lot of myself because of some things that happened in childhood and young adulthood. And therefore, those things in hiding made me feel like I had to shrink and I had to hide. And that took away from my value. I was discussing this with a really close friend of mine the other day. And I said that a lot of times in my younger years, I never took the time to really understand me and get to know who I really was. I was so busy trying to replicate other women that I emulated what they did and who they were. And I didn't realize that me and being myself and bringing myself to the table was my actual value, because I'm created as an individual in God's image and in his likeness. I'm beautifully and uniquely made unto one. I'm a one copy of one, and there is no others of myself. Yet a lot of my life, I walked around trying to copy other people's style or laughter because it was something in them that I saw that I liked. It was something in them that I saw that maybe I lacked or I thought I lacked. While I didn't realize a lot of the same people were looking at me thinking the same thing. So that kept me in a place where I felt like I wasn't as important or valuable or had as much worth as someone else to the left or to the right of me. And I believe a lot of women are in that same place. I believe that they don't take the time to really sit with themselves. They don't take the time to maybe really study who they are and what makes them genuine, what makes them whole in their self. Like it could be anything that's you, and that could be the one thing about you that's stopping you from knowing, wow, you are so different and unique than everybody else. People use words like weird or strange or, oh, she's different. And all of that makes you amazing. But unless you take it and have ownership of it, you're not going to ever break into that place of knowing that you're fully, worth every ounce of what you really are.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, from a man's point of view, we go through the same thing. You've been on my other show, which is all what was he thinking? And you
Yeah,
wouldn't believe the amount of guys that come on the show and say the reason why they exhibit certain behaviors, the reason why they was over sexualized, or the reason why they were chauvinistic, was because they didn't know their own worth, and they search for their worth or validation in all those external things like women or money or cars and fame or popularity. So guys go through the same thing as far as questioning their own self-worth, and then looking for validation with everything outside of self. And a lot of times that leads to a lot of unhealthy behaviors that we engage in. So I know it goes for both genders.
it absolutely
So
does. I've spoken to some men that have decided to go into a celibate life. And I'll ask them, like, well, what happened? What changed? They said, I started to realize my value and I wanted to get to know women outside of the physical. So now when I'm getting to know a woman, if I'm not basing it on the physicalities of what she can do for me or what I can do for her physically only, now I have to look at her differently. And I was like,
mhm,
wow. So that tied into, well, why didn't you do that before? Well, before I thought being a chauvinistic, male, I thought being a whoremonger or whatever they wanted to call it was what it was to be a man. Now I'm
mhm,
starting to realize my value as a man, and I'm starting to identify myself in my position as a man. And I realized that those things are not it. So it was like a
yeah,
process of elimination for some of them.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I agree. I've definitely walked that journey. And good thing about that, once you start to see your value as a man, you start to realize the value in women. So once you want it works, it becomes like a two-way street, I guess. Like, once you start to, value yourself, you say, okay, I start to look at women as more than just sexual objects. You look at women as human beings, and you start to see the value in them. So yeah, I've definitely walked that journey as well. So I can vouch for that. So
Wonderful.
when we're talking about self-worth,
Yeah.
um, this is ready for a relationship. So you mentioned that, there was times where you questioned your own self-worth. So how did that manifest in relationships? When you question your own worth, how did it manifest in your behaviors when it came to relationship, or the way you thought, or the way you view men, and things of that nature?
And it manifested in a lot of ways. And many of those ways were unknown at the time. They were expressing themselves in a way where I was accepting things that, had I done what I call done the soul work, and actually did the process of learning myself, healing from whatever issues in my childhood and early relationships that gave me that lower identity of self-worth, I would not have accepted so many things that I did. I wouldn't have even dated certain individuals because they just would not have even fit the bill of what my value was. We're going to go back to the dollar store squeezy stress ball versus the Gucci stress ball. I, a lot of times, allowed myself to be viewed, treated, and responded as I was the dollar store squeezy ball for stress relief. And I was the Gucci stress relief ball all along. And I just didn't realize I was. But as I went through the process of healing and self discovery, I started to realize, and as the veil started to come off my eyes, and I started to really walk into the fullness in accepting all of the good, bad, and ugly about myself, all of my past, and praying for a beautiful, glorious future, I awoke to the fullness of, wow, you know what? I've been settling for a lot of things that I shouldn't have. And I started to make better decisions, and I started to put myself on a better path to yield the results of what I actually did deserve and want at the level that I believe that I am, where I did not do that before.
That illustration with the dollar store squeegee ball, like the Gucci, like that really brings it to life when you say it like that. So yeah. Um, so I often hear this, or I should say, I heard this before. When it comes to us measuring our self-worth, someone once said that our money was meant to measure our net worth, not our self-worth. But a lot of people use things such as money to measure who they are as a person. And we use several different things to measure who we are as men, who we are as women. I truly believe a lot of the reasons why we don't know our self-worth is because we're using the wrong measuring tools at times. Sometimes we use relationships to measure our own worth. We might use our education to measure our worth. Or we might use our money to measure our worth. So, personally speaking, there's certain parts of the show I like to get a little transparent and get personal. Personally speaking, when you can think about the times when you was mismeasuring your worth, what were the things that you was using to actually measure it, that you realized, hey, this was never created to measure who I am as a woman anyway?
Um, that's a really great question, AV, and I will be very honest and transparent because that's who I am. I've been through my whole process and my healing journey, and I believe that a big part of why God allows us to go through the journey and come out on the other side, which healing is a continuous journey. Continuous journey. It's not a one-time situation. It's a continuous process. But to the level where I'm at now, I will say I know for a fact that I used my physicalities, sexual orientation, things like that, highly as my measuring tool. Um, the level of man that I could date, like how high up the status ladder he could have been. I use that. Um, who I knew, who I had ability to rub elbows with, who I had the ability to get invited into their hobnob, you know, with their, you know, if I got, you know, a suite at the so and so and I got invited out to celebrate this. I used a lot of things in that way. And those things are fleeting. And those things are very limited when it comes to true worth, because true worth can't be dictated by anything outside of internal. It can't be taken from you. You can lose something external. You can lose those connections. You could lose that relationship. You could lose those finances, you know, that position. Maybe if you were, you know, I've been in management, I've been supervisors, all of those things. You could lose those positions because I'm not there anymore. You know, I have my own thing going on now. But during those seasons and those times in my life where I was maybe someone's supervisor, maybe someone's manager, and I had that level of, I guess, authority, you know, you can use that. I didn't personally use those as mine, but the temptation to use them was there. So I can imagine that could be someone else's vice. It wasn't mine. However, I had to be self-aware of it, you know, that, okay, so I'm your supervisor and I said so, you know the rules, you know how this goes. You know, that's another way that, you know, I have not, that's not high on the list. Those other issues and areas I mentioned was higher on the list. I feel like a lot of women use their physicalities, you know, our body, our feminine charms, you know, manipulation in terms of, you may not really like someone, you know, you may not really care about them, but you're able to say, well, based off of the fact that they can get me in here, you know, this is a good connection. You've heard people say that. Oh, this is a good person to have in your pocket. This is a good connection to have. But you base those things off of sometimes you can be like, oh, this person can get me into this place. And now that becomes your identity. Okay, you know, I got the connection with these people, so keep them in your pocket because I know how to connect you to them. But all of these can be your, for me, they were. I use, those. And then, sex. For some women, sex could be a weapon. I was one of those women in my former life, that was a big way I, either could get what I want from men or the man I wanted or one I was pursuing or whatever one was pursuing me. I could withhold and, take a little bit longer to get more things if you thought like that. So all of those things was how I held. I dressed very provocative at a time in my life because I knew that would get me this attention and possibly to a, higher level of gentlemen or whatever I was thinking at the time. And none of that was true. And it was all fictitious and it was and it was all ridiculous. And it wasn't what I was doing for. It wasn't the purpose in which God made me. He created me to be a wife. He created me as a wife. And I was not operating in that. And once I realized that I wasn't operating in that, once I went through that journey and figured out why I wasn't operating in that, the transition was quick. And it was very easy. And it's extremely easy to continue on that path now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think that's the key, what you said at the end. And so many of us don't really know, or we don't, I guess, internalize what God made us to be. So that's why we look at all these other things to measure our worth. When it comes to men, we use a lot of the same things, but we might use our money, how high we are up on that corporate ladder, how much prestige we have. We definitely use sex as a measuring stick for our worth. Even if it's not sex, how many women we can attract, how many women we can have or collect. And those are things that I've definitely used in my past to measure my worth, to make me feel like, okay, you're either you're the man, or you're cool, or you're important. So there's so many times we use the wrong measuring stick, and we don't look to what God told us who we are, as men and as women, to really know what our worth is, So let's talk a little bit about that transition that you made, from not knowing your worth to, I guess, walking into the true knowledge of who you are. How did that start? What did it look like? What was that transition?
Ooh, quite a process.
Mhm.
Quite well. I actually I started my journey in my faith as a believer in Jesus Christ when I was like 26. So it kind of started there. The healing journey didn't start until much later. Um, I officially started my healing journey in about 2011, 2012, and then I stopped. And then 2014, I started again. Now, life
Uh,
caused me to stop, whatever. I just stopped the process. You do some work in the garden, and then the season closes out, and then you leave the garden until the next season. So that's what happened. So in 2014, I really began to seriously process. I realized, there was some things going on. I was in a toxic relationship. I had just got divorced a few years earlier. And I was in a place where I was like, okay, you gotta call this duck a duck. Okay.
mm,
This thing is quacking really loud. I can't keep saying it's everybody else if it's you. And I try to be very transparent and very honest with myself, even when it hurts, even to the point of pain. Because if I lie to myself, then I'm crazy and there's nothing going to happen in my life for me. Because you can lie to everybody else, but you can't lie to yourself. Okay. And I couldn't lie to myself. Now, I'm not even going to say anymore. I don't think I ever did. I just wasn't facing the truth. So
mhm,
2014, I started facing the truth about what really was going on inside. And so I began to do this long journey. I began to really journal. I began to really dig inside. I began to read a lot of self-help books, a lot of Christian work, as well as, regular, worldly books. Right around that time, Steve Harvey books was
mhm,
dropping, all of that stuff. And I was reading it everything, because I wanted to find out where I was responsible. I was trying to take accountability so I could change it. And it
mhm,
was a slow process because a lot of that took layers and layers and layers of digging to get to the root of a lot of stuff. And then from 2014 to 2018, my mother got sick and she passed in 2018 from cancer. So when my mother passed, that really pushed me over the edge of self discovery. And I went into a full onslaught of figuring it out. And I did the deep healing at this point. Now, at this point, I'm completely celibate. I've gotten rid of the toxic relationship. I'm single. I'm disattached from everything. I decided to cut off everybody. No friends, no nothing. For the first time in my life, I had no crutches. I had no people I could call and be like, hey, I need $50. I had to figure it out. I had to figure out all of my little hooks, all of my loopholes, everything myself. And I did the work. I did the work.
mhm,
I dug down deep and I healed in all of those areas that had that kept me in that loop and that kept me in that place. Now, from 2014 to 2018, I did a lot of work, but this was the actual healing process here that I did. And what
mhm,
that looked like was tears, pain, honesty, a lot of journals. I love journaling. I love to write because I like to see progression. I like to see instant progression. If I go to the gym today, I want to see results tomorrow. Okay. Because I
mhm.
need to see results because I'm like, no, this is a value. This is my time I'm investing. This is,
Yeah,
me putting down my own vices and my own self. And I'm bringing myself, like the word of God says, bring yourself under submission. Bring your
yeah,
own members under submission. This is me saying that I'm putting myself under submission to
mhm,
the word of God to make sure I heal
yeah. You
and to
said
get to the
something.
relationship I want because now I know my worth. You see what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I see what you said, and you said something that that triggered another question in my mind. About the digging. And how you had to dig to find your self worth. And I know when it comes to people questioning their worth and not knowing their worth, a lot of this stuff is generational. It's cycles, is years and generations of abuse that is passed down from one generation to the next, or put downs and let downs and insults, where we lead to not really knowing who we are. What's your experience or your thoughts when it comes to that, about the generational impact that affects a person to not knowing what they're worth? And then we're going to really get into the relationship part of knowing your self-worth.
AB, I'm so big on the generational thing. Even before I fully understood, yes, healing is necessary. Yes, indeed it is. Before I fully comprehend and understood that there was the process of a generational curse, or fully understood, I had my first son at 18 years old. I was a teenage mom. And what I decided then, at that young age, not even knowing Christ, not knowing nothing about curses, just from paying attention and seeing the patterns in people's lives and the pattern within my own family, I said, you know what, there's certain aspects that's just not going to happen here. We're not going to flow like that. We're not going to operate like that. And I didn't fully understand how it worked, but I definitely made sure that I made amenities that I could set my family, my children, my little stake in the world on a different path. Now, the problem with that was I didn't look at myself that way. I didn't see where I thought that was enough. I didn't realize the areas in me that had some of the same cycles and some of the same. Like, my mother had me at 18. I had my oldest son at 18. So what I said, oh, my children won't have any children out of wedlock. Do you know how crazy that sounds? To a mother that's had children that was born out of wedlock from a mother that, it sounds like, are you insane? But guess what? So far, knock on wood, I'm 45, about to be 46. I have 3 adult children, and I'm not a grandmother. And my oldest son is engaged to be married in July.
Okay, congratulations.
I believe in speaking things into existence to the highest degree. That is how I believe you break one of the methods of breaking generational cycles and generational curses. You say the things that you want. It doesn't matter what you saw. I don't accept certain things. If there was a sickness in the family, I say, no, we won't have that. We're fine. We're not going to have that. And then we do the things that we have to do. If you don't want to have certain high blood pressure and all these things, you do the things you need to do as well. But you also believe and speak those things. I said the things that I wanted for my family, my children, but it took many more years before I started to say them for myself, because I didn't feel like I was worthy of it. How do I have the right to say certain things? Like, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be one of the most successful life coach and motivational speakers to ever have walked the planet. I didn't feel like I had the right to say that 3-5 years ago. And now I absolutely have the right to say that. And I know that it will happen, but I did not feel that way before, because if you've never seen it, if you've never had any example before you in your own bloodline and your own genealogy, then you have to create that. You have to become it. If no one else in your lineage has done it, you have to be the trailblazer. You have to be the one that decides, you know what? I'm not any longer going to allow the things that my family did do. If everybody only lived on the East Coast their whole life, then I'm going to move to the West Coast. If everybody decided that they didn't want to fly, and, I'm a military brat, so that's all we did. That's all we did. So, okay, I'm flying all the time, everywhere, beating this passport up. Let's go. And then not only am I going to do that, but I'm going to make sure that I have my children now from 13. Now, you're going to fly. You're going to get your passport. You're going to be traveling at a very young age, because I'm trying to break the things that didn't happen previously in our bloodline.
Yeah. What you said is so important. And that's something that really didn't happen as a child, even in my life. Like parents speaking stuff like that into existence. Like there's times I'm sitting down with my son, I'll just tell him, "Hey, you're gonna be great." I just had a conversation with him today, telling him don't how not to be scared to exercise your voice. If you have an opinion, say it. Like I constantly try to have these type of conversations with him so that so that voice can be stuck in his head. Because these are not conversations that we had with our parents. I don't really know what blocked those conversations aren't if we weren't trained or taught to have those type of conversations back in the day. But those are the conversations I really try to have with my son now, so he can understand his worth. So at least if he's questioning it, he can think about daddy's voice. Daddy told me I'm gonna be great. So he starts to believe that. He starts to believe it.
Exactly. And I'm glad that you said that, AB. I want to touch on one quick thing.
Mhm.
You made a statement earlier to me. You said, well, what was the thing that kind of happened? Well, my mom married what the world would call my stepdad, but that's my dad. He raised me from 14 when he came into our life. He's been my dad since day one. That's my daddy. Love you, daddy. And so therefore, when he came in, he played a very vital part. I feel like you need that person. You need that catalyst to
Mhm.
catapult you into your destiny. Either an accountability partner, a mentor, a life coach, um, a parent, a parental, a maternal, maybe an uncle, an aunt, someone that is going to be positive, someone that's going to speak life over you, someone that's going to bless you, someone that's going to encourage you and empower you and equip you when you don't understand. I did not understand. I had God send a lot of women sprinkled out throughout my life to give me little bits of hope here and there, little glimpses of what I was becoming. And I would
Mhm.
just take those 2 little seeds, 3 little seeds, and put them in my pouch. Then when my father came, he really came in and flipped everything on his head. He said, we're going to read. This is going to be a reading house. Everybody's going to read. We're going to exercise. We're going to get up at 5 a.m. We're going to go for runs. We're going to have chores this
Mhm.
time, this day, all of these things. He put things into motion. But what that did was that changed up and broke the protocol of what everything was every day in and day out. And it put us on
Mhm.
a different path. Then he joined the
Uh,
military and he took us and we traveled and we learned things and we saw things and we went places that we would have never. So I'm not going to go without ever giving honor to him and saying he was the catalyst of that change. But the internal part, I had to do that alone.
yeah.
I had to go inside
He,
and do
he
that.
sound he sound like he sound like he was a great man. Sound
And
like
he
he was a
still
great
is.
man.
Still is. I love my daddy. But thank you.
Yeah. So
So,
for those that are watching, I made an announcement in the beginning. I have 2 books, Ready for Relationships and From Relationhood to Spiritual Healing. I am giving out free copies of the book for the first 5 people, not everyone, the first 5 people. If you just message me, Ready for Relationships, I'll mail you out a copy. I just wanted to say that real quickly because I know I announced it in the beginning and I haven't announced it again. So let's talk about relationships and the importance of knowing your self-worth before you get into a relationship.
mm,
Why is this so important to know who you are, to know what you're worth, and what's the dangers of not knowing your self-worth when you enter a relationship?
AB, I'll say this. It's absolutely pivotal that you know your self worth. For one, you can't even negotiate how to get into a dating scenario without it. You are going to accept anything that comes to you, anything that's offered to you. Um, Anybody that comes up and approach you, if you don't already know what you're accepting and what you're willing to accept, anything could potentially be something that would get your attention, and everything don't deserve your attention. So if you understand your self-worth, you already have yourself on a specific level. When you go into a market, you have shelving, and the bottom shelf to the top shelf. And then everything that's average and basic is in the middle. That's why it's eye level. Then everything at the bottom is usually like the sale stuff that they really don't want you to buy because it's the same, but it's a little cheaper. And the good stuff is normally at the top. You got to reach high up for that good fruit. You understand? It's at the top of that tree. You got to work for that fruit. If everything in the middle doesn't know its worth and doesn't know its value, and everything on the bottom is a little bit cheaper, even than the things that's average, you always want to be on the top shelf. There's a reason why top shelf liquor costs more. There's a reason why high-end bags are up on this shelf or maybe even locked, chained up. They hold more value. So if you know the value you hold, even when someone approaches you, even when someone shows interest in you, if they're not there on the level that you already have established yourself by doing the work, processing your healing, understanding your value, then you're not even going to give that any attention. And you don't ever need a reason to be, impolite, because you're just like, oh, no, thank you. I'm fine. I appreciate that. But then at the same time, while you are making sure, can you hear me now? Is that better? So
I can hear you, but I don't know. Someone said they couldn't hear you. I'm not sure.
Can you hear me?
It's still happening.
Are you?
I can hear you.
Okay. So if you don't go into a relationship knowing that, that's extremely dangerous, because it could take you off the path of your destiny. It could take you off the course of the purpose of you even being here in the first place. It could distract you, have you 10 years down the road where you shouldn't have been there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the dangers. The importance of it is making sure that you come into a relationship whole. I don't like this saying two halves come together and make a whole. No, I want a whole person, and I'm a whole person, and we come together and we just edify what's already in us, what giftings and talents are already there. I don't want half a person, because where's your other half? I don't want that to be me. I don't remember God ever saying, oh, I made a half of Adam and a half of Eve. He made a whole Adam. He took a piece of Adam and made a whole Eve, and then they came together. So you have to have that wholeness, and you have to understand who you are, because if you don't, and you have to understand your self-worth, the danger in that could be you missing your purpose, you never fulfilling your purpose, you never fulfilling your destiny, you never, because I believe that when you're with the person that you're supposed to be with, all of your gifting and your talent is just either fully manifested, or it begins to come to the top. If it was hidden, if it was still maybe brewing under the surface, I feel like that person comes and they begin to pour water on your soil so that you can begin to sprout up. And you better be doing the same thing for them, because it has to be a two-way street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really. If we don't know our worth, then we will never be able to attract what we really want. We'll never be able to attract what we need in a relationship.
You won't. It's impossible. You only, like, I think you said something to the extent of like, you only attract. How did you say that? You'll only attract what you think you're worth.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say something like that?
I don't know what happened.
You will never attract more than what you think you're worth. I think that was a quote. And so, in saying that, you'll never attract more than you think you're worth. If your self-worth is low, then what are you attracting?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
No, I can't hear you for some reason.
Okay, hold on. Let me do some adjustments.
Oh,
is that better?
That's a little better.
Are you able to hear me better?
Yeah, that's a little better.
Okay, I don't know why.
I think everyone else can hear you, so that's good.
Okay, I don't know why it changed all of a sudden. I didn't move anything. But
Yeah.
like I was saying, if you don't understand your worth, then you can't attract the mate that you really desire. And that was another leg of my journey. I actually started to do the healing work so that I could attract the mate that I really desired and that I really wanted. I started to journal. I started to do confessions. I started to do my healing in terms of figuring out why other relationships from the past um, didn't work, why my marriage failed, um, why I was attracting, like the last relationship, a toxic, narcissistic individual. Something in me attracted that to me, and then something in me accepted that. So I had to find out what in me attracted that, and then what in me accepted that, so that I would never accept that or attract that ever again.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So I just have one more question.
Sure.
For a person that's searching for their work, that's on that journey. I know everybody's journey is different, but what would be a good starting place for someone that's confused, someone that's looking, someone that's that's tired of being in that cycle of unhealthy and negative relationships, toxic relationships. And the reason is because they don't know who they really are, they don't know their worth. What would be a good starting place for a person to start on that self discovery, that self worth journey?
I would say honestly, to sit down with themselves in a quiet place with nothing disturbing them and really ask themselves, why am I here? And let that question begin them on that journey. Why are they here? Now, the why are they here could go so many different ways. They could think, why am I here on this planet? Why am I here in this relationship? Why am I here at this job? Whatever their why am I here takes them, then that's the most urgent. And that's where they need to start, right there. You know that old saying where it's like, you really like him a lot, don't you? And then they said the person that comes to your mind is the person that you wanted to be, whoever. They didn't say a name. That's the same thing with the why are you here? Because when you say why are you here, and whatever you answer, that is your answer. And you start there. You start. I always love to, like I said earlier, I'll say it again. I am serious about journaling. I free write, and then I actually do actual strategic journaling. And so free writing is whenever I'm feeling something, I just write it down. I get it out. I put it on paper, happy, mad, angry, pissed off, whatever I am, I put it down. And then I can come back and then I can look through and I can detect what was going on. Was I being emotional? Was I sad? Is this a deep rooted trauma? And I can begin to then move it over to a more strategic breakdown. I would tell people after you get the why are you here and whatever journey it leads you on, then transfer that over. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't like to write, I don't like to journal. Well, then maybe take your phone, do a recording. You don't have to post it. Record what you feel. See your facial expressions. Hear the inflections in your voice. Listen to it back. Watch how you look. See how it was affecting you. That's where you start. But the main thing is to start. Too many of us never pass the start. You can't spend your life on the starting line. You have to begin to move forward. Even if it's baby steps, even if it's crawling, you have to begin to make forward movement. We all internally know when something isn't right for us. It's not a good fit. If you buy a shoe and that shoe don't fit right, it's going to bother you and let you know. So you know when something isn't right for you. You know when a job, a relationship, a place, a meal, you know when something's not right for you. It's just a matter of being honest with yourself and asking yourself, why am I here? Why am I here in this relationship? Why am I here in this relationship? Why am I here in the store?
That's a powerful question to ask. And that's a powerful question to ask yourself. Like, why am I here?
Why am I here?
And
Because
when you
the why am
find
I here, I'm
the
telling you,
answer,
It's a good question because it
Yeah.
really takes you on a journey. It takes you on
Yeah.
a journey. And you can
Yeah.
apply it even, okay, so let's say you
Yeah.
get your first why am I here? And say your first why am I here is like, okay, why am I here at this job? I hate this job. It's stress. It's too dang on far. They don't pay me enough. My supervisor's a jerk. I really want to be sewing clothes for a living and making my own, designs. Then why are you here? So
Yeah.
then you figure that out. You go do all of that stuff. Then you're in a relationship. Why am I here?
Yeah.
It's enough. You can do it over and over and over again, and it'll take you down a different path every single time.
Because the answer to that question is helping you find your purpose in life. And like your purpose is so attached to your work.
Yep.
Like once you know what you're going after, what you're good at, what you are passionate about, like then you'll find your work.
And you know what, Avery, honestly, as well,
that role.
it's just
Your
as
role
important to know what you don't like,
Mm-hmm.
who you don't like. If you
Yeah.
know that you don't like a certain type of gentleman, you don't like a certain type of female, don't even approach them. Don't even allow them to approach you. You already know that's not on your list of things that you actually like. Like I have food allergies. So I have high food restrictions of only specific things that I can eat. I already know certain things are already off the menu for me. They can't even be included as an option. And we should approach dating relationships just like that. Just like that. Now, you don't want to be too restricted because you always want to leave room for the Lord to do what he needs to do and to bring your mate to you. That's my belief system. However, your preference, if I know I like a certain height and a certain build, I'm not going to go for somebody that's completely opposite of that. And I'm going to be so uncomfortable and so unhappy and I'm going to make them unhappy. It's not like with a job because jobs can change. That's different. They can, elevate in financial. But if they look a specific way, those things, that's pretty concrete.
Mm-hmm.
If the person is into something, they into anime and you hate anime, you might not want to date that person. It's pretty simple. Certain things are just pretty.
Yeah.
That's all a part of the knowing your worth. You know what you like and you know what you don't like. You know what you can do, what you're willing to do, and what you're not.
Beautiful. Yeah. So one thing I neglected to do on this podcast, I neglected to ask for questions from those that were viewing, but we did get one question or one inquiry that I would like to post. It says, Kelly asks, I'm interested in knowing what she found out that was in her that attracted narcissists.
Oh, good question, Kelly. Thank you for asking that. What I discovered was in my childhood, there was a lot of things that happened to me, molestations, things like that. And that attracted me to the wrong kind of relationship with men. So I then married someone that I felt like was safe, and he was a great, great father and a great man. But I don't believe that was my mate, and unfortunately, even after 13 years, that marriage still didn't, work. Then when I did date, a couple of narcissistic people, because I had a bad imprint as a young child of a relationship with men and with a male. And so therefore, when I dug that out, and I mean I had to dig because it was painful to have to accept that, and then what do I do with this information now that I have it? How do I heal from this? How do I then, and I went to therapy. I had actual therapists and counseling sessions, and I had mentors and prayer partners, things like that to get me through the process. But I had to do that to figure out, okay, this is why I was attracting these. And then I had to forgive the person that did that. I mean, really, I had to forgive. I had to call the person and say, listen, I forgive you. That's my healing journey. That was for me. Everybody got to go through their own. This how I got free. Okay. So then once I did that, and this was over months. This wasn't no one night. I figured it out. It happened. I was healed. No, this started months and months and months of processing, crying, journaling, praying. Then finally, getting to the point where I was able to call the person, I forgive you so that you can forgive and go on. I got my freedom in that. And then I said, okay, God, now when I do decide that I'm ready to date again, you decided I'm ready to date again, then I know for a fact now that I'm free of that bondage. So I will then attract the mate that I deserve.
Yeah. Thank you for being so transparent. I know that's going to help.
You have to, because your testimony is someone else's freedom.
Yeah, it is.
And as a coach, I feel like it is my responsibility to give someone else my story, my freedom trail, so that even if I could leave, a breadcrumb on my freedom trail, then they can pick it up and maybe that'll help them to theirs.
Yeah. So as a coach, please tell the people that are watching where they can find you, where they can follow you, your social media. You never know. There might be someone over here that needs some coaching.
Absolutely. No problem. So you can find me. My website is BU Complete, and that's spelled just like it sounds, BEYOUcomplete.com. And you can book a session. I also have a free, counseling session for 10 minutes where we kind of talk things over and we see if we're a good match and a good fit for one another. And on Facebook, I am Complete Woman. And so you can follow my page. I also have a group that's called Healing Tuesday. And for the Healing Tuesday group, I talk about all things that have to do with healing, emotionally, mentally, relationship. I put up all kinds of facts, statistics. So that's a really good group to follow as well. I don't just post on Tuesdays, but I have this special relationship between me and God in Tuesdays. He always does something miraculous, and I fast on Tuesday. It's a lot with my Tuesdays. So Tuesdays are special to me. And then on Instagram, I am T_the_encourager. So that's T_the encourager. I'm also on the radio. So I'm on Spiritual Connect Radio on Tuesdays from 7 to 8. And I'm TD Encourager on there. And I also have a co-host, Andrea, and that's more of like a social piece. We talk about social things, stuff like that, but we do have a lot of different various guests on there. And when I produce the shows, my guests are normally people that have something to do with like healing or relationships and things like that, or something in that genre. I usually try to stay around the same area because that's my thing, So that's me. That's my places. That's where you can find me. You can direct message me. You can send me a message in Messenger if you would had another question or anything to that extent. And I would love to hear some feedback from some of you that was on the live today. If you got anything, if you wanted to delve a little bit deeper, I'm 100% open to that.
After hearing all those things that you do, I feel even more honored that you took out the time to be a part of this broadcast.
No, it's a pleasure.
I appreciate
it's an absolute
all
pleasure.
That you said, all that you brought.
Yeah, I love the work that you're doing. I love how you are really striving to help all relationships, but I'm going to say African-American relationships. We need that more than ever, especially now in this day and this time. And I really stand behind the work that you do. I've read your book because, you sent me out one of your books when you first wrote it, and I really read it and I enjoyed it. And I've really been encouraged, and I watch you. So it's always an honor to connect with you and to be able to come on and have any type of input. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on your platform. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. The honor is all mine. Thank you. So, once again, for those that don't know me, even though this is my page, my name is A.D. Bracewell. This is Ready for Relationship Live. Please continue to leave your comments. Tamaka is going to respond. I'll respond. You know how to reach out to her through her social media. if you're interested, I've seen someone say they're interested in becoming a life coach. Or if you need, or if you're looking for a life coach, please reach out to her. You can reach out to me.
Or if you would like to know what a life coach is, what I actually do, what I can offer to you, you can reach out to me for that as well. A lot of people don't understand, but I like to say, like, if you think about a fitness coach, they help you with your body and they kind of help you with your fitness. Life coach kind of help you with your life, and we help you with certain areas that you need someone to coach you or support you in different ways. So, you know.
Well, thank you. There it is. So thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for being a part of the show, for your comments, your heart, your loves, all that beautiful things. Hope you have a great night. Reach out to her, to us, and we're going to reach out to you. Have a blessed one.
Bye.